We have enabled the Q&A via chat for this. I will be taking questions and doing my best to give you answers after the webinar, so please reserve those for after the webinar is completed, but certainly feel free to post your questions throughout the webinar. We will review those at the end, and certainly I'll be available for emails or phone calls for follow-up on circumstances that are specific to you, your organization, the way things are structured and set up for your organization. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things with the Microsoft stack is it's certainly built to work together, but it can be customized based on the compliance, the regulatory oversight, as well as just the needs of any individual business. So, most of what I'm going to go over here is should be available to almost everyone, but there'll be a few caveats which we'll touch on as we go through this. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in and get started. Last week's webinar was kind of a general overview and top-down view of how OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint do work together. We're going to build on that today, and we're really going to take kind of a deep dive into very specifically how to share, how OneDrive's involved, how to use the sharing options, doing some linking and meeting invites of documents, going over the co-authoring and some of the co-authoring tools that are available. We are rolling the dice a little bit here. We're going to do this live. I'll create a document and I'll share it out with some coworkers who've been kind enough to join me on the webinar here, and we'll do some live co-authoring. So there'll be a bit of back and forth between various screens that I pull up, and there may be a little delay here or there as we go through this. But if you just bear with us, as I said, we really want to take this as a deep dive, really show you the how to do this instead of just talking to you about it. I'd rather just bring it up and go through it. So bear with us, and as I said, we'll go ahead and get going. So first thing that you need to consider is if you're going to share a document, you need to prepare to share that document. You can't just have it saved any particular place and expect to be able to share that document. That document, whether it's a Word doc, an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, anything from the Microsoft stack, if you want to share that document, you've got to make sure you have it saved in your OneDrive folder. So that is that's probably the biggest key is if it's not in your OneDrive folder, you're not going to be able to share it. You won't be able to co-author. It's got to be there first. So at this point, we'll go ahead and pull up Word, and we're going to go ahead and create the document that we'll share out here. So we'll just start with a blank doc. And then we're going to call this sharing demo. And let's make that a title. Center it. And then we're just going to go ahead and here and go to File, Save As. And most of us will have this OneDrive right here and available to us. Click on OneDrive, and I'm just going to save this right in the root of OneDrive. We'll call this sharing demo. And we'll then save that file. Excuse me. Now, to confirm that we do indeed have that file in our OneDrive folder, we'll come over here and look, and where did we put that? Sharing demo doc, right there. So it is in the OneDrive folder, and it is currently syncing up to OneDrive. So it's in the process of being synced up to OneDrive as we speak. One other little note while we're here, for those of you that don't know, if you right-click here on your OneDrive folder, you can come down here to Settings, and here under Account, this is where you can choose the folders that are on your machine that are automatically mapped to OneDrive. As an example, my Documents folder is automatically mapped to OneDrive. So if I store something in my Documents folder, it automatically gets synced to my OneDrive folder so that, if I'm at home or away from my office, I still have access to these files as long as I have internet connection and can log into Microsoft Office or portal.office.com, and my credentials are able to be, as long as I can get in, I have access to these documents. So while we're here, I figured I'd at least point this out. Now, every company's got their own policies on this. You may or may not be able to control this. Certain folders may be required to be mapped. But again, this is where you do that. You just, again, right-click on the OneDrive folder and click on Settings to take you to Account. So again, that is there for you if you want to take a look at that. Again, work with your IT team if necessary to get that stuff mapped properly. But I know that's been a great boon to a lot of us during the unprecedented times we've gone through, that having access to all of those files pretty much from wherever we are has been very, very handy. So now that we've got our document created and saved to, I got my autosave on it, it's saved to my SharePoint. Now we need to go in and use the sharing options within that document. So once again, we'll go back to Word here. And you'll see this nice little share button up here at the top. If you click on share, that's going to bring up the sharing dialog box. So this is where you'd add the email addresses of the folks you're trying to share this document with. I'm going to go ahead and share this with Ed Pryor, one of our client technology managers, as well as Katie, our director of marketing. And then I'll put a little message in here for demo. And then this is very important here. You want to click on this link, and these are your sharing settings. Who can access this? Anyone who gets a hold of this link, pull up this document. Can people only in my organization pull up this document? People who have access to the place I've stored the document, if there's other folks that have access to my OneDrive, or if it's stored in a shared location, or specific people. And then do you want to allow them to edit, or do you want to keep them from downloading the file so they only work on it in the browser? Now, in this case, I definitely want to allow them to edit the document because I'd like to see them, I'd like to co-author this with them. And it's okay for me that anyone in ASK can access this, even if it's not just Katie and Ed. So we'll go ahead and apply that. I've got my two folks here. And so then we're going to go ahead and send. And they will get an email letting them know that we've shared a document. Now, just for ease here, I did pull up did this earlier with Ed. Here's the email that he received from me, letting him know that I've shared a document, and he could just click right here and open that document. It'll bring it up right up in the browser, the Word browser. So, and again, they can also find that and pull it up through Word if necessary. So again, he gets an email letting him know that we have shared it. I've shared a document with him. So again, some of these settings here, especially on the permission side, they may be grayed out for you. Each organization is different. Each organization has different compliances that they're under, different policies. IT may have restricted certain things. Certainly be very careful with the anyone with a link option. Think about the contents of that document. Is this something that any random person should be able to view, or do you really want to keep it in-house? So certainly, your safe bet is specific people or folks within your organization, hopefully you can trust the folks that you work with on a daily basis not to monkey with your document if they shouldn't. And then again, ensure that allowed editing button is checked. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues collaborating on that document because you're going to be the only person that can make any changes to it. So this may be a little different for folks. Some of these may not show up or may be grayed out based on permissions. Again, every company is under different regulatory compliance and things of that nature. So just keep that in mind when you're sharing your document. This is not a next to go. Take a minute, think about it, and then decide which settings are appropriate for you. So now we'll go ahead. Oh, what do you know? Katie's already adding information. We'll go ahead and get to that in just a moment. So in a meeting invite, you can actually link a document so that, as an example, you can go ahead and say, hey, I need to call a meeting to collaborate on this particular doc. You can link the document right in your meeting invite to ensure that everybody has access to the same document and they're ready to go as soon as the meeting starts. So we're going to go ahead and Katie's adding some text there for us, but we'll come back to that in just a moment. If you go up to the share, you can click this copy link button, which will get you the link for that document. So then you can bring up your Teams application where you're going to schedule your meeting and create a new meeting. And we're going to talk we're gonna the sharing demo, and we're gonna put in include Ed and Katie. And if we wanted to, we could even include a Teams channel. So for example, we could include, put this in the marketing team or customer success team into one of the sub channels. We're doing a lot on COVID right now. So, our marketing team COVID campaigns, if this was applicable. And then here in the body, you can paste in that doc. So please review this doc to the meeting. And it might help if I could spell. So then they have a link, they click on this link in their invite, and they would have access to that document so they could review it ahead of time. So you just click send, and then you've created that meeting, and you are ready to go to talk about that document that you've linked there in, that you need to collaborate or work on together. So that's a very handy tool. It allows for a lot of prep work ahead of the document and ahead of the meeting. I know a lot of the times the first 10 minutes of every meeting can be just making sure everybody has access to what they need to have access to as part of the discussion and things of that nature. So this can just eliminate all of that, give everybody a chance to peruse material ahead of time. Things that folks may need to review ahead, you can just put right in the description of your meeting as part of your agenda. So now, moving on to co-authoring. This is where things get pretty neat. Now, first caveat to this is you do have to be connected to the internet for this to function. So if your computer is not connected to a live internet connection, it's very difficult to co-author, as you're not going to be able to see, the real-time edits. You'll get notifications, if any, that come in once you have internet connection again. But again, this will require internet connectivity for this sort of thing. So I'm pretty sure that Ed and Katie have both joined me in this document at this point. Hey, what do you know? So first of all, you can see up here in the corner, I have KS and EP. So I know that not only myself in the document, but I also have Katie and Ed that have joined me here. And you can see here, there's Katie's cursor, and the text she added looks like she just added the smiley face, and she's typing again. And then Ed also here, and he can add information as well. So now if I want them to, I want to draw attention to a particular area of the document, or I need some input from one of them on this, I can add a comment. So I can put my cursor down here to the end of Katie's paragraph, and I can click on this comments button and click new comment. That will bring a dialog box up where I can say, thanks, Katie, please elaborate. And then I also can, it might help if I could spell, and then I also can mention Katie. When I do this, Katie's going to get a notification in her email that a comment was placed and she was notified. So here's an example of a mention that we tested earlier with Ed. So I made a comment on a document that I shared with Ed, and then Ed got a notification that I mentioned him, and it gives him a link to go directly to not only the document, but the place in the document where I commented. So this is very, very handy for drawing attention to particular areas where you need another individual. Oh, and hey, there's Katie putting in comments as well. I'm sure I'll get an email here shortly letting me know that she commented and made a note on this in my email as well. So again, you can really collaborate back and forth on this. She can reply to my comments so I know what's going on. Again, this can also be done within the Teams application, because Teams will run Word in the browser view. So you can actually be in a meeting in Teams with this up in the browser and collaborating back and forth on the document. So very, very handy, lots of tools here, very, very easy to use once you know how to use it. Again, making sure that you've got that document saved in the appropriate spot, and then using those comments, sharing it out to the appropriate people. Make sure you got your right permissions, and then you can co-author these things. Everybody can add their piece, and then you can kind of go through and put it all together. Use comments to ask questions, ask for additional input. Can you add the Q1 numbers here? things of that nature. And as you can see, we've got cursors moving around on the screen. You can see where Katie and Ed's cursors are as they're authoring this document. So, and this doesn't work just only in Word. This works in almost every other Microsoft platform. As you can see, we've got the share and comment section here as well. So here we are in Excel. We've got share. Oh, and I haven't saved the file, so it's going to yell at me. But you've got your share button, same as in Word. You've got your comments, same as in Word. You can put in comments, mention people, ask for input. You can do the same thing in PowerPoint. So if you're you and 3 others are co-authoring a PowerPoint presentation, share that presentation out so you're all working on the same document. You can edit different sections at the same time, ask each other for input where you don't have to be in the same room or on the phone with one another. You can just mention them, and then when they have a moment, they can go in and add that piece of information that you're looking for or comment. You can reply back and forth, and the notifications are very smooth. They go back and forth. If I share a document with someone, I actually get a notification when that link was used. So here's Ed earlier. I got a notification that he successfully used the link to the shared document. So I'm aware that, okay, Ed got my share request and he has opened my document. So I'm aware that he has access and he knows that I've shared it with him. So there's a lot of the two-way communication back and forth with this. You get notifications in your email when you're mentioned, if a document shared with you, if you're the owner of the document, when somebody accesses your shared document, you get a notification. So there's a lot of that back and forth, so you're aware of what's going on as far as who's in, who's out, who's seen your email, who hasn't, things of that nature. So again, very, very useful tool, not overly complicated, but it's just knowing what to do when and where to make sure that this moves as smoothly as possible. And then again, remember, every organization is different. Every organization is under different compliance standards. It's all under different regulatory controls. So, you may not be able to share a document with folks outside your organization just strictly due to compliance. But at the same time, as I said, every organization is different. Give it a try, talk with your IT staff, ask them if this was an intentional denial of permission, or if it was just an oversight that they really locked it down when they didn't need to. And those of you IT people and business owners who happen to be on this call, review your acceptable use policies and things of that nature. Just again, make sure that they're applicable to today's time and environment. Some of them may have been written 8-10 years ago and really just don't apply nowadays, or certainly need to be updated. So it's something that every company should review on a regular basis anyway. But especially in the times we're living in today, certainly I don't want you to buck regulatory or compliance, but do what you can to make things as convenient for your staff while maintaining that cybersecurity posture and mindset. So, and with that, go on to some other resources. Certainly, if you'd like to learn more about the sharing or the Microsoft 365 stack, your IT staff, ASK is more than happy to help out with that. We do have our COVID Resource Center where we're continuing to post good how-tos and content for folks. The second link I know is a little cumbersome, but I found it's a great video buried in in Microsoft's website that goes over the sharing and the collaboration piece. It's a very nice video. It's a great one to watch. It's not overly lengthy. They break it into sections. Microsoft's got a great YouTube channel. Sometimes their videos can be very, very lengthy. Some are very, very short. So again, pick and choose. Certainly take a look around there. There's a lot of really good content that's a 5 or 10 minute watch that may be able to give you some tips and tricks. Certainly the document library at Microsoft is an excellent source of information, though it does take a little bit of rooting around in to try to find what you're looking for. There's a lot in there. So, do your searches a couple of times and see what results you get. You may have to word your search a particular way to get what you're looking for out of that library. Again, your IT staff is always a wealth of information. Leverage them, especially in these times. And if for those of you who don't subscribe currently to the M/O365 stack, Microsoft is still running their E1 licensing promotion. It's a 6-month trial of the online version of Office that's available. You can just sign up. So, certainly leverage that. If you don't have access to it to it today. So next week, I want to certainly make sure I invite you. You know, Microsoft has and is changing the Office 365 licensing model. They're removing the word Office 365 and changing it to Microsoft 365. There's a lot of different benefits. They've added in some additional feature sets, some additional functionality, some add-ons that used to be for fee or baked into some of their new licensing. So I'll be kind of reviewing that with everyone next week, going over the Office 365 licensing model, you know, that we're used to, and then the new M365 licensing model, and you know, where it may make some sense to start investigating some of the new licenses, and where it may make sense to just stand pat. Again, there's a lot that goes into that, and you know, we'll kind of go through that together. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of open up the floor to questions. I've got the Q&A turned on this time, so we'll go ahead and go through that and review it. But again, remember, you know, it's just as simple as getting that document saved in OneDrive and then using those share features that are built right into the document to invite the appropriate persons, especially within your organization, to help you co-author that document. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and look through the Q&A here. All right. Let's see. Looking this over. Okay, I've got a couple here. All right, so let me see, where do I publish this? Okay, so I've got one from Kathy. How do I delete someone I've already added? You could go in and to right-click on the shared with, and you should be able to edit those settings, removing someone. If not, I would get with your IT. They certainly would be able to remove someone from a shared document. Might need to be changed or saved or modified slightly, but again, you can right-click on it and go to the shared with, and it should show you the folks there that it's been shared with. If that's not available to you, then I get with your IT administrator or your Office 365 administrator to see get their help on that. All right, next question here. Can a doc also be in files under the channel associated with the team? You know, Sue, that's a really good question. I believe because OneDrive sits on the back end of SharePoint and the file section for Teams is also in SharePoint, I believe that that's where we can share out from that one as well. I'm going to have to confirm that, and I'll catch up with you offline and double check that, but I believe we can do that. Let's see. Can permissions, next question is, can permissions be person specific, some with write and others with read only? Yes, you just have to share twice. Basically, you'd share with the group that you wanted to have editing permissions and check that edit box, and then complete that sharing request, and then start a new sharing request, add the other names that you just wanted read permissions to, and make sure that that allow editing box is unchecked. So I also see, how do I edit an email already added? Well, I mean, if it's added but hasn't been sent, you should just be able to delete that email and just retype the email address in. If it's already been sent, then you'll need to either look at that shared with section on the right click on that document in your file explorer, or work with IT to remove those permissions. Let's see. Let's see, next question. Is there a best practice to set up OneDrive? We've been using 365, but not OneDrive. Looks like it can really help us. Yes, there are some best practices to setting up OneDrive. To be honest, Colette, I don't think I can go into the full dialogue on best practices. I'd love to circle up with you after the webinar to talk about your circumstances, you know, the way your situation is, and you know, certainly help you with that. But yeah, there are certainly some best practices on setup, and we'd be happy to at least give you some advice on those based on your unique situation. All right, next question here. Jim, how do we get the OneDrive folder? OneDrive folder should be available right through your file explorer. If you just click on the little file icon down on your toolbar. In fact, here, let me do this and that and that. Click on your little file folder here, and you should see your OneDrive listed along the side here underneath your quick access. You also have down here on your toolbar, I have OneDrive as one of these. It might be here in the caret. but you can click on this and open the folder, which will then bring up your OneDrive folder as well there, Jim. So there's a couple different ways of accessing it there. If you share a link, do you have to set the security settings, or will the link work for anyone automatically? That's a good question. A lot of it comes to how the backend group policy settings are set for your organization. That's a loaded question, to be truthful. If you share that link, depending on the default settings for your tenant, that link may or may not be accessible for anyone automatically. So again, that's something that I would take up with your Office 365 administrator to see what your defaults are. That was from Anonymous there, so I don't know who. All right, Neil, is there a way to auto backup so someone's bad edits can just be deleted? About just one person's edits without everybody else's work? There is some versioning control that you can turn on in Word, for example, where you can have some various versioning. You also can subscribe to an Office 365 backup solution that would then back up all of your files and it in snapshots based on history. So you have a copy from yesterday, a copy from a week ago, so on and so forth. But I mean, to be truthful, I would work on versioning in Word and make sure that's enabled so that you do have a chance to roll back some changes. So again, that one is, that's a toughie. Again, be a little careful with who you share with. I mean, you know, I would certainly be at least cognizant of who I'm sharing with, and is that person likely to screw up my document? So again, some of this, you can't completely code around human nature. So my suggestion would be cautious, and then turn the versioning on within Word. Okay, ooh, got a pretty big one here from Anonymous. We have an extensive integration with server file storage for automatic file folder creation, permissions, etc. Can all that done via API in OneDrive? Can permissions be done by default or preset? I'll be truthful with you. I'm sure that folks within my organization would be able to answer that question, but I am not confident enough in my knowledge to be able to answer that question with any degree of accuracy. That is certainly something I'd be happy to follow up with you on if you'd like to give me a ring after the webinar. Again, I'd be more than happy to talk through that specific item with you. But to be truthful, I don't have a good answer to that question. I'm sorry, that's a little specific for you, for this one. So, all right, let's see here. We got 4 new questions here. Let's see. All right, it looks like Neil lost some audio here. So, oh, Neil, sorry about that. I'm hoping you can hear me. Bad edits are tough to deal with. Versioning in Word is probably your best solution for people making edits and screwing up other people's work. Would be you turning on versioning in Word, so you have some regression capabilities there within Word. All right. Okay, I got a question on Anonymous here. If I don't see the OneDrive link in File Explorer, how do I get it? Well, you certainly can log into portal.office.com with your Office 365 credentials. That main page will give you an option to access OneDrive there. I would work with your IT department to get that drive mapped to your File Explorer. If that happens to be us, we'd be more than happy to assist with that. Just give the help desk a call. If not, I'd work with your IT director or the folks that that administer your Office 365 deployment to help you with that. So, all right. Let's see. What does Microsoft do with OneDrive data? Well, OneDrive data is stored in Microsoft's cloud, stored in geo-redundant data centers based on your tenant settings. Those are often contained within a geography. I know a lot of folks are under certain compliances. The data has to be stored on US soil. There are different settings that can be done within the Office 365 tenant to ensure that your data is not stored overseas. But OneDrive data is stored in Microsoft Azure and Microsoft's cloud. in geo-redundant data centers scattered across the US and globally if appropriate. All right. Okay, and I think that does it for the questions. I hope this was useful to everyone. I hope everyone got at least a little something out of this, and then certainly, feel free to reach out to us with your specific needs or questions that are specific to your company or the way you're structured. I'm certainly available. 517-676-6633. I have an extension 335. Shoot me an email, kmeeker@justask.net. Our website, justask.net. Our COVID resource page has a tremendous number of resources available, as well as plenty of ways to contact us. There's certainly a plethora of ways to get in touch. We're certainly available to give anyone a hand that needs it. So please feel free to reach out. We're certainly dedicated to doing what we can with the knowledge that we have to help folks during these troubling times. So with that, I'll thank everyone for attending. I really appreciate the turnout, and hopefully I'll see the majority of you next week. Thanks again.